All right, guys, we're out in the woods. It is Thursday, January 22nd. We're actually working on the same line that we worked on Monday. We had 2 days where we had to deal with water lines. So we're going to show you replacing some drops. Going to have the camera on my head. Hopefully it's going to take some good footage. Please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. All right, guys, we are out in the Sugarbush today after work. So it is going on 4 o'clock, Thursday, the 22nd of January. So I was out here the other day. We did the video on Monday, and we haven't been back in this woods since then because we've been dealing with frozen water at the horse barn and all kinds of other stuff. So I got my head camera on today. As you can see, I don't know if it's going to be pointed in the right direction or not. We'll find out. We'll try to do a video. We're going to show you some tools that we're going to use. But one of the things is that we're going to do where I'm going to start promoting the products that I use, because I really do. Most of the time I recommend everything that I use. So today I have my Carolina work boots on, and I've been thinking about getting studs for them for a while. Well, I finally bit the bullet and bought some studs. 30, what are they? Maybe $60, something like that, on Amazon. I will have the link in this video to buy them. They just screwed right in the bottom of my Carolina insulated work boots, and there's 14 studs in the boot. So when I was out here the other day, slipped around, it's icy a few places, but not only that, but just tree roots and things like that. You're always walking on a hill, and there's always potential that you're going to slip. So I'm hoping they're going to help. I also saw, people use studs. Been watching a show, The Last Woodsman, on Discovery Channel, and the guys that are all out there felling trees with chainsaws, they wear studs. And I thought, man, that's a pretty good idea to get some studs just generally walking in the woods, just a little bit extra traction on leaves or snow or ice or tree roots. So they stick out about, I don't think I can show you, but we'll see. So there you go. They stick out maybe a little over 1/8 of an inch. I wouldn't say quite 1/4 of an inch. And they seem to work pretty good. They're easy to install. They come with a tool. You just screw them in there. I had a little bit of trouble figuring out what depth I wanted them at, but I think they're pretty good. I might have wanted ones that were a little bit longer, but we'll see. These ones are installed between the lugs and not in the lugs. So obviously, if they're in the lugs, you're probably going to get different, more traction, but they're also going to stick out more. Maybe you don't want that. So we'll see, but I did find out there's all kinds of companies out there that make them. One really good one that looked like a really good one, but they're in Canada, and because of the tariffs, they don't sell to the United States anymore. But anyway, so we're out in the woods. We're going to turn this camera off probably and try the head camera and see how it goes. We're going to show you some hopefully going to show you some two-handed tool work and see what you think of that. Like I have the Pruno two-handed tool, self-tensioning, or auto, I guess they call it auto-tensioning two-handed tool. Had it, more than probably like 15 years, and we replaced one spring in it one time in the vice grip part. Other than that, never had any problem with it. I do notice that one side's a little bit looser, so this year I might send it back with my dealer and see if Pruno won't replace the springs at the Maple open house. Well, anyway, we're gonna get to work, see if we can finish this line. So the other day, when I was out here, this is where I stopped, right here by this tree, and then I came back out. The line, a couple lines over, had a couple saddle issues, and I actually went and took the time to replace the saddles, and I tightened up that, put a tensioner on that line and tightened it up, and did a little bit of work on that. And then I went up to another line above me that needed to be tensioned. Well, the horse fence was broken, so I had to fix the horse fence. So that meant that I had to get the high tensile wire out and all the tools. So I'm like, well, if I got to get the high tensile wire out and all the tools, then I guess I'll take the time to tighten up a couple sap lines that need grips put on, and then high tensile fencing to the ratchets for the anchors. So they had to have new anchors put in too. And then I went ahead on the one line down the hill. I went ahead. I think it had 3 saddles that I replaced on the one line behind me. But anyway, we're going to get to work. We'll see if this works. So hopefully you like the video and you learn a little bit, and you understand what we're doing. So we're a long ways from being done. I get this section up through here done. That's the road up there. Get this done up to the road. We'll be about 1/5 of the way through the woods with all the repairs. So we'll see how it goes today. All right. This is either going to be a pretty neat video or a crappy video or somewhere in between. But you can see this lighter colored line right here. This is leader 30P. It's probably about 15 years old. So we're going to replace that with this green stuff down here. This is LaPierre Max 15. So we're going to replace that. Just because the leader line is older, it's getting windy. Leader line is older and it could possibly be leaking. It might have some holes in it. Obviously has some deteriorating to it. So the other thing is it could be loose on the fittings, and that could be leaked too. Just been 15 years is quite a long time. It's a different kind of tubing. It's more of a plastic, more of a hard plastic. So I don't know if you can see or not, but we'll find out. So, two-handed tool. Gonna clamp it on there about 3/8 or so inches, 3/8 of an inch out. We put this one down because we're going to be using an end line hook, and we need it to be closed so if you don't, the hook will slide up in the middle. And it's auto tension, so you just line it up and push them together, and it hit right there, so I just got to turn it a little bit. Once in a while I forget to do that. The bottom of the hook is bigger than the top. There you go. Then you take your tool, close it up, and then reach back, and I stick it in my holster. I made a holster. Somebody gave me some leather, and I actually had I think it's aluminum strapping. So we're going to cut this. This is the one I want right here. We're going to cut this off, all the other stuff off. Just going to tuck that in there. Get our loop so it's somewhere close to the tree. Bring it right around front. And then right in the front here, I'm going to slide that back. We're going to put a drop in right there. So that way our drop is actually going to be away from the tree a little bit. And then it will also, if we can either hook behind the drop or in front of the drop. In front of the drop will make the loop bigger, but the line will be tighter. And behind the drop will make the loop smaller, but the line could also would end up being a little bit on the loose side. So then we have our drop. This is a left side plug, so it goes like this. Left side is plugged right here. This right side's open. So if I put it like that, the sap would not go down the line. So I have to turn it around. So now it's plugged towards the tree, so the sap won't go towards the tree. The sap comes down the drop, has to go out the other side down towards the main line. So when the tree gets tapped, pull my spout out of this drop here. When the tree gets tapped, the sap comes out of the tree. Sap comes out of the tree, which is right here, comes out of the tree, drops down, comes down through here, and then it has to go down the line towards the main line. Then we'll just cut this right out of the way, and we'll drop it down out of there, hopefully. This is all tangled up in there. And then we'll pick it up later. Somebody, my helper, somebody will come through and we'll pick it all up, maybe me. We'll put it down there by the main line, so all you gotta do is walk the main line to pick it up. We'll just toss it over there for now. And then we're gonna take our tubing and we're gonna go down to the main line and we're gonna cut the tubing, the old tubing, off the saddle and put the new tubing on. But some people use a spooler for this. I don't. To me, I've done a lot of tubing over the years. It's never been worth the hassle of carrying out a spooler and setting it up. When you end up doing the same thing, you end up carrying this. You're going to end up carrying the spooler from saddle to saddle, just like you carry the roll. And I've never really seen that be. It doesn't seem to be worth it to me, especially when you're doing long. When you do this, if you do it and you really want to try to maximize your vacuum, you want more main lines and shorter laterals. So now, real carefully, I'm going to cut this off the saddle, and then I just take my pruning shears and stick them right on there. And this 30p, if I score it, I can almost break it. So I just scored a little bit more. It just takes a little bit of practice. I got it scored. Obviously, and sometimes it's easier than others. Sometimes it's more difficult. You never know how it's going to come off. But just like that, I've got it scored. And then I just have to stick them in there. And you'll see very minimal damage to that fitting. See where I nicked it just a little bit? It's not going to have any effect on it at all. So then we're going to change this out. This is a inline connector or a hook connector or inline splice, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to change that out for a slide fitting. So the reason is that the slide fitting can be a little bit tighter, and there's no, this 5/16 line is not going to have another splice in it. So it eliminates one small opportunity for a leak. And you just really want to eliminate as much as you can. Some people don't like the slide fittings. I'm not too crazy about how they come packaged, but they do work. They go on so tight that they're very hard to take off. And then I just measure kind of where I want it, and when it's pulled tight. And then I always forget how to hook them. Got to go this way, I think. And then I want to turn my line inside it a little bit so that my loop is flat across my main line. And then I just take my my pliers. Can use a two-handed tool, but I'm on my knees, so I don't want to reach back there. Just crimp it down on both sides, nice and snug. They're probably the only thing not to like about them is if you do them right, they're super hard to get off. And then this is actually 9-gauge wire. This is a pre-lashed main line. I was not a big fan of it. And then we'll just see if our loop looks good. Looks pretty good. It's a little bit shorter than I want, but there's a wire tie right there. So that's the other thing that I did to that line where I fixed the saddles. I went through and put a whole bunch of wire ties on it. That was a pre-lashed line as well. So the problem I had with pre-lashed line was it is super hard to put saddles on. At least I thought it was. And the problem with that is, for me, is I do not run any more than 3 taps to a saddle. Now you can see I got a little bit of sag in that. It's not quite, the main line moved or whatever. So I want it to be just a little bit tighter. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to unhook this loop. Hopefully you can see that. And I'm going to pull it and I'm going to put the hook on the other side of the drop, and you can see it tightened it up. Still could be a little bit tighter maybe, but it's pretty tight. And then what's going to happen is, as I go up, you can see one right up there I have to do. I can make that one a little bit shorter, and that'll pull on the main line to the other side, and that'll tighten this one up. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm gonna pick up my side fittings, and I'm just gonna come up here. I don't want to keep reaching in my pocket, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put one right there. And I don't see, there's one more quite a ways up there. So we'll go ahead and put these back in my back pocket of my vest. Put them in a bag, that way if they fell out, it'd be the whole bag that I was looking for, not just one slide fitting at a time. But the studs, so far, they feel like they've helped a little bit. They are, it's just hard walking. I mean, you can't expect the studs to take care of everything. You still have to come up here and walk on, pretty rough terrain. We're going to step through and grab a couple drops. I'm trying to think, that one up there is probably a double. So anyway, I'm going to start posting the links in my descriptions of all the products that I use. I'm going to put the studs in there that I got. So basically, if it's something that I use and you can buy it on Amazon, I'll start posting the Amazon link so you can get on there and find it. I really like the DJI cameras and the mic too, and the GPS controller and all that works great. Like it all. Like DJI drones. I have two. I hope that they figure it out so that they can not have to be under the FCC rules or whatever that they've been talking about. They're supposed to be banned from producing new models and selling them in the United States. Hopefully they figure that out, because that's super annoying. Just the fact that they have to deal with that is super annoying. So we're gonna set these up here somewhere and do this one. Now this tree could be a double, could be a 2-tap tree, so I'm going to set it up that way. And like I said, hopefully the camera's working good. But this one back here actually is a new drop, and it is a plug T. But we're going to replace it anyway, because we don't want that. We don't want this Y, and we don't want this 30p out there. So we're going to replace the whole thing. We're going to do the same thing to this one what we just did to the last one. I'm going to set our, kind of steep right here by this tree. Set our tubing down, and we're going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to put a hook on and wrap it around the tree, put our drop on. Now this one's going to be a little bit different, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the plug T on. I'm going to put it farther around the tree, because the double, to make it a 2-tap tree, we would put the other one in front of it. But I don't have any of them with me. They are actually down in the woods behind me, so I'm not going to go get them. I'm just going to leave this, and if I come back to it and I put in a double, fine. If I forget and I don't come back to it, then that's also fine. At least the one drop is going to work. So I'm just going to cut that right out of the way right away, and we're going to pull the spout off of it. And then we're going to toss it back towards the main line. And we're going to drop the spout in my pocket. Drop the spout in my pocket real quick. We're going to reach around. So I like to reach around from the downhill side. I like to make mine go up. Now, one thing that I didn't show you the other day, and I'll show you real quick here, is another reason to use these hooks is right there. So I have it hooked. Now this one, so a double T would be a black one, and it would be open on both sides. So the sap would come down that one and go that way, but the sap from the next one around can come through and go through the bottom. That's where the plug T is going to go back there. So I'll show you what another reason why we use the rings. So we're going to put the plug T back here, which isn't really what I want, but the problem, well, maybe we're just going to do a single. Because if I put that back here, there's no south side back here. That is not south, that's like northeast. South is over here. So maybe we're going to change this back to a 1 tree just because of that. This over here to my left is definitely the cold side. So I think we're going to just do one, and we're going to put it out here. But I don't want the sap to freeze in the tubing up against the tree. We want to try to get the tubing on the south or southwest side or west side to get the sun to thaw it out quicker. I think I talked about that in my other video. That's kind of like a big thing that Dan Crocker has discovered from just going out and being very observant of their woods. You know, a couple guys that this is all they do, are paying attention to things like that and then passing it on to us. So I'm passing it on to whoever's watching me. So here's another reason why to use. So there's a couple of reasons to use a hook. One is I can unhook it at any time and I can take it down. Okay? So right now I have it wrapped this way. So say I'm tapping the tree, and I don't know if you can see it, tapping the tree on this side. And it's like, after a while, it's like, it's getting hard to find new wood. Or I can take this apart and wrap it around the other way. And hook it back up. So it's like this. Now I'd slide it that way. And now I can work on that side. Now this is a nice long drop. These are 40-inch drops, so we don't have to do that too much. But it's an option that you have when you do the hooks. Then the other thing is you can just take it apart and right out of the way. So if you had to go through an area for some reason, or in our case, we have an area up above where we're going to have to cut some trees out, and we don't have any choice, but we're going to have to take lines down and lines apart. And the last thing you want to do is cut them and then put them back together. We don't want to make any splices, any unnecessary splices, because that is a potential connection that's a potential leak. So we're just going to run this out the same way, and we're going to make a loop figure out how we want the loop. Just set that down. Just try to measure from the slack. And we're going to cut it off. And then we take this, see how it's twisted. We're going to untwist it whatever way it wants to go until it looks good. And then with this one, we are going to, slide fitting fell off. We're going to do this one. We're actually going to hook the slide fitting first, just to do it that way one time. And hook the slide fitting. We're going to take this one off. I'm not sure. Just a piece of tape that's on there instead of a wire tie. It just has a piece of tape on there. We're going to cut this off the saddle. Now some people would say, "Oh, don't cut them off of there. You can't clean that up, and you can't do that without damaging it." Well, you can damage it minimal, and I would say don't cut it off fittings and reuse it year to year. But you can, you can cut it off and make it so you don't damage it. It doesn't take very much practice to do that, actually. But I would be more likely to agree with somebody that says, "Oh, don't cut it off of fittings," than I would be somebody for saddles, because a fitting is, geez, I don't know, the most expensive 5/16 fitting is probably 50 cents, where saddles, the new saddles that we use are, I think they're $2.50 a piece, so there's a big difference between a saddle. And the new saddles that we use are zero micro leaks. They have a really big barb on them. So as long as you don't damage that, you're not going to have to worry about that. Saddle there is loose, actually. So this is an old saddle. This is actually a CDL, or IPL saddle. It's loose, so I don't like that. So these saddles actually were designed to go together. Then they're supposed to have a bolt. And when I bought them off the internet, Bascom's or somewhere, they didn't come with the bolt, and they didn't say anything about that they were supposed to have a bolt. I found that out later. So we're actually going to just leave that one off, and we're going to come back with a saddle later and put that in my pocket. We'll come back with a saddle later, and we'll just replace it. I think I have 2 or 3 more. So we actually use different saddles now. You might have saw the video. We use Lapierre Flex saddles, and then they actually switched to Flex 2.0, so that's what we use. And they go on a lot different, a lot smaller. They use a regular 5/16 hole. This one I think is maybe, I don't know if that's 5/16 or quarter. I think it's 5/16 maybe. But we used Lapierre Super saddles, they were called, for a while, and then we got to the Brannon saddles, which are actually developed or invented by the Brannon family in Vermont, and we like them a lot. They have the double zip ties, and they're zero. Lapierre makes them, and they're double zip tie, but they're zero micro leak, and they have a one big barb, and then the smaller, I think there's a smaller 2 barbs. One barb is a big barb, and Lapierre calls that the zero micro leak because of that big barb. So this one here could get replaced, but we're not going to. This is a green, that's a plug T. Same thing back there, that's a plug T. These both could get replaced, but we're not going to replace them this year. We're just targeting the 30P. Now that one out there, we'll go out there real quick, because a couple of these we want to eliminate a tap. So when you go through and you're tapping new trees, so this is where people talk about, this is conversations a lot. People talk about tapping trees, and they say, oh, 1 tap for a 10-inch tree, 2 taps for a 20-inch tree, 3 taps for a 30-inch tree, all that. Well, this is let's see. I put my hand up there. It's like 24 inches, probably. My hands are a little over 9 inches apiece. But the problem is, when this drop is on here, the bottom of the drop doesn't move. So you're limited to what you can do. And you can see it's a fairly old one right there. And I'm looking for a pattern, that we had a pattern. Somebody, it should be there's one there, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there. So I have a pattern. Like, I could go, there's one there. So it looks like there's a spiral. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's a spiral. And then what we do after a while, I call it anyway, you reset the spiral. So you go down below it and make another one, or you go up above it and make another one. Or you unhook your loop, flip it around, and work on the other side. But the problem with this is there's 2. So this guy over here is working in this area. So he's over here doing, look at that, this one, this one, this one. It has a pattern too. And I don't really care how you tap your trees, okay? I don't. But you have to have a pattern of some sort, because if you're going to have other people help you, they have to be able to recognize the pattern. So what we do is a fist, okay? And you'll see if I can show you, because I haven't tapped all the trees myself every year. But here you go. There's kind of like a fist there. There's one there, one there. Then there could be one here. So we go a fist over and a fist down. And I can tell you the amount of times I hit brown wood, I could probably count on one hand. No, and I'm not lying. The problem with this one is there's one up here, and then there's one way over there. But there's one there, there's nothing here. There's nothing up there. That's where I would go, because I'm tall enough I could reach up there. I would go up there or way up here and reset the spiral up high, because nobody else that taps for me is as tall as I am. They're not going to be able to do it. So we're going to take this one off, and we're going to take this one off. This is a double T. That's a plug T back there. We're going to eliminate them both. But the tubing here has a couple spots in it, but other than that, it looks fine. So we're not going to worry about that now either. So we are going to take and put a plug T in, drop with a plug T in, and again, this is a 40-inch drop. These here are, look, see, that one's actually longer, because these were actually ones that I made, and I made them 42 inches. But we want to move out away from the tree. Now, is there a south side out here? Well, there isn't necessarily, right? South would be to my right, and behind me is south. But we're going to move it out there anyway, because it's out away from the tree. And guess what? It is on the east side, and the sun rises in the east. So it's actually going to get quite a bit of sun out there, I believe. We're also right by the driveway, so there's no, there's no canopy. That's going to get a lot of sun right there, I think. We're going to put a spout on. These are Lapierre 90-degree elbow spouts. These actually are the older ones. We found 6 boxes of them, 600 of them. They have the maple leaf. They were really hard on a hammer, on the nylon head on the tapping hammer. And they're hard on the hands when you put them on too. But you notice I put it on with my hands though. Using my gloves. I've never used a tool to put spouts on either. We'll just drop those there. So we cut those off. So this is a plug T. From there back around all the way around the tree as a dead loop. And when the guys come through, they'll see that's cut off. They see one drop, they know that's all they have to do is one drop. And they can do however they want to, but I would tell them, you see a new drop, you're going to go as high as you can. Whether it's this way or that way, it doesn't really matter. There are other ways to tap. A tapping model, I think LaFierre published it in their catalog the one year. And I was like, wow, like, it's very hard to understand where they go opposite side. I don't know how, and basically, so after you go, and this is the part that I guess people may or may not, once you go opposite side, in my opinion, or the way I understand it anyway, or the way I would do it, is you would tap on this side, then you would tap complete opposite on the other side. Then you come back to this side. So then the next time, you would do some sort of diagonal pattern. So I just do a diagonal pattern. I've been doing that since I was a little kid. We tapped this woods here by my house for the first time. I think I was 6 or 7 years old. And we've never killed a tree because we tapped it, that's for sure. Like I said, I myself personally, now this is a CDL, that was in one of the boxes too. That's a CDL Smart Spout from years ago. So this one has a Y, and I'm not too crazy about the Y, but look how much room it has. Huge amount of room. But I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to take this limb off. And when I put this drop in, I am going to take out some slack. So, I'm going to eliminate the drop that was there, and we're going to keep the Y because we want to get done. Now normally I would say, let's go ahead and replace it, make a loop, whatever, but it has a huge amount of room in there for that tree to grow, so I don't have to worry about that. And the Y is going to become useless anyway. I was just making a loop, so I'm just going to go ahead and put my drop in right here in front of the Y. Definitely out away from the tree, which is fine. Big long drop. We're not going to have any problem with it. So now I've got some slack in my line. So I'm going to pull some through, a bunch through, until it gets pretty tight in my hands. And I'm going to trim that off. I'm going to drop it over there where I'm going to drop the drop. And then I'm going to put the drop in there, and it's going to stay fairly tight. So that's how you cut. That's how you cut out the slack. Use a two-handed tool, and then take your pruners and trim it out. One thing that's nice about these plug tees is, I know if I'm on the right side of the main line, which I'm on the right, the main line's over there to my left. This has a point away from me. If I'm on the left, it has a point towards me. And I'm going to put my spout back in there, and we're good to go. Just going to hook that up like that. And then we'll take your trimmers and we'll just cut this one off as the loop is dead. So, and I mean, this is a nice sized tree. It's like 12, 14 inches. And this drop can reach way up there. So I mean, there's a lot of room. We do have a couple spots where we're going to tap below the ladder line this year for the first time ever, probably. And it's not because we have to, it's because we're going to choose to, because we don't want to lift the sap anymore. Had one area where we had a small lift that we built, a 2-line lift. It works fine. But then when we moved the shed at the Sugarbush, at the sugar house, the vacuum shed, we lowered it. And the main line, we didn't need the lift on it anymore. And so we actually took some taps off because the main line's high. Well, we're going to lower the main line down a little bit more and tighten it up as tight as we can get it. And we're going to than any ones that are instead of standing on a ladder, or we used to stand on the four-wheeler. Instead of doing that, we're just going to go ahead and tap below the ladder line. Now, my assumption is, which I could be wrong, my assumption is they're not going to produce, if you had two trees side by side, same size tree and everything, the one with tapped below the ladder line probably was not going to produce as much as the one tapped above, just because you're fighting gravity. Yes, you have a vacuum pump, but you're still fighting gravity. But are you going to get, are you going to get 90%? Or, I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm sure the guys that tap below the ladder line, they probably assume those trees might not produce as much, but they're going to get more than they would if they didn't tap them. And that's kind of like the thing with lifts and ladders and all that stuff too. They might not produce as much, but you're getting sap that you normally wouldn't get. And for me, it's about not hauling sap. We don't haul one single drop. Now this year I actually have the idea that I might tap a few taps over at the cabins. There's maple trees over there. We might tap them over there and put some buckets. I'm not sure if we'll collect the sap or not, but I thought maybe if people were staying there, they might think it's pretty cool to see the sap in the buckets. It's a minimum amount of buckets. Now, if my kids were older, I'd say to them, hey, you go collect the sap from them and I'll pay you or whatever. But they're not old enough to do that. So they're going to cut this one back to one as well. So, it's, at this point I was like, if I do it just kind of for the touristy thing, what's it called? Agritourism. Then we do it. If we don't, we don't. We could even just go over and dump the buckets on the ground. It'll be fine with me. It's as far as, not going over and hauling, I don't know, 5 or 10 gallons of sap back to the sugar house. It's probably not worth it. But every tap that we have goes right to the sugar house. I did my time hauling, and those days are over. So here I just have to have this pointing at me, and I know I got it lined up right. Once in a while you just kind of help it just a little bit. It goes right in. Two-handed tool. Pruno two-handed tool. Works great. Get them back in the holster quite right. There we go. Alright. So we're going to do the same thing. Pull this one over there. So anyway, hopefully you got a little bit of what we're doing. Got one there to replace. And then I think we're done with this line. We'll move on. Got to do a loop up there around that one. So 2 more. And then we'll be done with this line. And I'll just pull my tubing up there, guess where I want my loop, cut it off, untwist it. The more you get to the end of the roll, the more you have to untwist it. It gets harder to, doesn't come off the roll quite as good. The last, 50 to 100 feet can be a little on the difficult side. We'll grab a slide fitting. And we'll put the bag back in her pocket. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to hook up the slide fitting first. And cut this one out of the way. This one was taped down there. And we'll hook the slide fitting first. right here by this tape. Just kind of pull a little bit, see how much slack we want to take up. And we'll hook it on the main line first. This is where it's hard. This 9 gauge is not, with a pre-lash, it's hard to find a space sometime. Take up some slack, go look down, make sure all the rest of them are still tight. Because if you take up too much, it'll loosen up some of them that are on the same side. And you want to, I want to do the least amount of posts and things as you can, but still have good slope, have fairly tight lines. So that looks pretty good. Put those away, and then we're going to cut off the tubing off of here. Just going to kind of gently score it a couple times. I don't know if you can see or not. And see how I scored it, and then I stuck it in there and pried it. And I just nicked the end just a little bit by twisting it off of there. It's fine. This is a Lapierre Super Saddle. It's got the 2 barbs, and the second one's bigger than the first one. And then we'll take our 2-handed tool, clamp it down on one side, put the tubing on the other side. Again, we just leave it out 3/8 or so. And then saddles, you just got to be careful how you start them on there. And then a lot of times you have to do 2 because it sticks out. If you stick it out too far, you can't push it. If you don't stick it out far enough, it won't go on all the way. Can't just that right there's in the way is a problem. I'm gonna cut that off. It won't leak like that. It's on there far enough that it wouldn't leak, but that's keeping me from having my flat side to push on. And then the other thing with this is you're doing it like this, the cutter right here, it'll hit on the main line if you're not paying attention. So you got to tip it up a little bit higher, push it on. And then we'll just check it a little bit here. And that's what the problem with this one is. The cutter was hitting, so it wouldn't push on. This right here was hitting on the main line, so it wouldn't close. All right. So that is going to be the video for today. I'm having a hard time hitting my holster today. Hopefully you liked the video. Please like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more from Triple D Farms, Triple D Maple, and Triple D Cabins. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.